Now we'll hear from Thomas Tonatiuh Lopez of the Chicano Hoka Chincangu Lakota.
Thank you so much, Tashina. You have grown and blossomed in ways that it's very beautiful to see your journey, and I want to thank you for allowing me to be a part of that journey with you. Hello everybody, good afternoon. My name is Tomas Tonatiuh Lopez. Tonatiuh means he who brings the sun. My mother is water woman Sharon Dominguez Lopez, and my father is Sundance Chief Tomas Lopez Sr. I identify myself as Chicano. My people are Mexica from the Aztec Empire, and I was raised with the Shishangu Oyate, the Lakota people in Rosebud, South Dakota, with my grandfather, Leonard Kodog Jr. I joined the No Dapple movement in the end of August, and I went there pretty much doing the same thing that my parents did in 1973 with Wounded Knee. They were simple supply runners, and I didn't know how else I could help. I kept seeing all this stuff on YouTube and stuff about, these horrific things that they were doing to my people, and asked my parents how I could help and what way I could help. And they said, well, they always need water, they always need fried bread, they always need firewood, and why don't you go ahead and get a little team together and go up to Standing Rock and take them some of those supplies. And so my niece Micaela Ironshell and my nephew Darian and my niece-in-law Savannah went ahead and packed up a truck and took them up some supplies, and what was supposed to only be a 2-day trip ended up being about a week and a half. And the next day I actually ended up meeting the International Indigenous Youth Council, in which my cousin Terrell Ironshell and Andrianne Ironshell were already a part of. And they told me, we would really like it if you joined us. We feel like you have a really good outlook on things, and we could use your opinion on some of the things that we talk about. So I went to my first meeting, and I immediately fell in love with these people. To call them kids is an understatement. To call them kids would do them no justice. They are elders in younger bodies. And I remember speaking to one of the founding members, Jacelyn Charger, and the very thing that she told me that really inspired me to stay a part of the movement was she said, "Who better to speak for the past than the voice of the future?" And I sat there and I let that resonate, and it resonated in every part of my body, in every part of my soul. And I realized this organization, this group of people, this group of kids was going to go a lot farther than any other organization or any other camp or any other team that was actually at Standing Rock. So I went back home, and I had to come back home and take care of some stuff, and then it wasn't until the Raid of the North camp when I actually realized that I wasn't doing any good at home, but that I actually needed to be there with my brothers and sisters. So I stopped doing everything that I was doing, and within 2 days I was living in a teepee with my brothers and sisters at Standing Rock, and I had no idea the adventure and the journey and the life that I was about to enter, and that I'm still on as of now. I didn't realize how hurt I was. I didn't realize how much trauma I actually carried in my blood memory. And going to Standing Rock, it was a unifying experience, but it was above all a very healing experience for me. For the first time in my life, I was surrounded by people who actually looked like me, who actually had similar stories as me, who carried similar pain as me. I grew up in Denver, Colorado, and I went to an arts school for 7 years in which I was constantly surrounded by white people. And I grew up thinking that I was a fairy tale, thinking that I was a Disney character, thinking that I was this figment of people's imagination that really didn't exist. And going to Standing Rock, I finally realized that no, I come from a long line of empowered, powerful warriors and people that may have been one of the greatest empires in the world, and also realizing that everything I had learned, everything that I had been taught, was actually taught from a perspective of a white person. Nothing was truly told to me in the way that it happened. It was never told to me from an indigenous perspective. You know, oftentimes you read history books and we get one chapter. We get a footnote. And for the first time, I wasn't reading about my people. I wasn't reading about my culture. I was immersed in it. I was living it. I actually got to see what it was like to skin a buffalo, to tan that buffalo hide. I got to watch the empowered women, put up a teepee. I got to find out, about the way in which our women go through childbirth. I had no idea that you give childbirth standing up and you use gravity to actually help you give birth. I thought that was such a beautiful perspective. I'd never seen it before. I'd never heard of it. I'm so used to being around Western medicine. And while I was also in Standing Rock, I was arrested in Mandan. In the middle of one of my prayers, I was in a group of majority white people. I was targeted, and I was immediately arrested after doing nothing illegal and charged with the charge that when they have nothing to really arrest you for, they use it, which is disorderly conduct. It took two very large white men to subdue me because I was so disorderly. And it was a really, really difficult experience for me. Prayer is very intimate to me. It's very private to me. Prior to Standing Rock, I didn't pray out loud. I would pray to myself, and so to open myself up like that in the middle of a war zone, and to expose myself like that, and then in the middle, be grabbed and violated. It was very traumatizing for me. But as much as I wanted to fight back and I wanted to resist, I just asked myself what my mother would do, what my father would do, what my grandfather would do. And I remembered in that moment, my parents didn't teach me how to fight. My parents taught me how to pray. And my dad always told me, when you start something, you have to finish it. And I knew that in that moment, I had to finish my prayer. I had to finish that prayer. I could not let these oppressive force stop me from my prayer, from being who I am. And a Chinese proverb came into my head, and I still say it to myself, and I remind myself of this when I start to sink back into a state where I start to get really anxious and nervous. And it's, no matter which way the wind howls, the mountain will never bow to it. And I knew that they could do with me what they wanted with my physical body, but they will never have control over my spirit, over my soul, over my mind, over my heart. And I kept that prayer. I held that prayer. I held on to it. And I am one person, but behind me is 1,000 ancestors, and they held me in that moment. I was then booked into Burleigh County Jail. They thought I was a minor at first. And they put me into into jail, and that's when I started to have the realization of the school to prison pipeline. In school, you're given a grade letter, A, B, C, D, F. A means you succeed, F means you fail. Well, in the jail systems and in the prison systems, you have cell block A, B, C, D, and F. F being high max, A being low max. And I saw that connection. I saw that right then and there, that our schools are modeled after our prisons, and our prisons are modeled after our schools. And the very schools that they have put us in are there to colonize us. They're there to strip us of our culture, strip us of our humanity. I was then put into my cell with 7 other men. One was African American, one was white, and the rest of us were indigenous. I started to talk to a lot of the men there, and one of the men said to me, "Why do you think Standing Rock was started by the youth and by the women?" And I said, "I don't know." And he said, "Because our Akichita, our warriors society, we've all been imprisoned. We make up over half of the prison populations in the US. And I looked around and I realized I was now a part of that statistic. I was now a part of that system. And that system of oppression pushed me down. When I was then bailed out by a very generous man. My bail was, I believe, $1,200 for disorderly conduct. And I remember the lawyer was driving me back, and she was like, "Hey, we're going to take you to the hotel, and so you can shower up, and you can go and have a nice warm meal and watch television." And I said, "No, God, no." And she was like, "What do you mean?" I was like, "I have been surrounded by walls for like an entire, however long. No, do not take me to more colonized worlds. Like, I don't want to be around it." And she said, "Where do you want to go?" I said, "I want to go be with my family at camp. I want to go be with my brothers and sisters." And so she was so shocked that I had said that, and she took me to camp. And I just, when you come into the north gate, there's a hill that goes down, and then on one side of the hill it drops off down into the camp. And I told her, "Drop me off here." She said, "Okay." So I got out of the car and I ran up to that drop off and I just jumped. And I fell and I rolled down the hill and I just laid in the grass and I looked at the stars, and the very few stars that you could actually see because of the psychological warfare they were using by pointing the floodlights at the camp. And I just breathed, and I remember just saying to myself, "Man, this is paradise. This is freedom. It's war, but it's freedom." And then I walked up to my brothers and sisters who were all sitting there, and kind of walked up all slow, trying to be all incognito, and then Leah turns to me, "Thomas!" And they ran up and they hugged me, and I cried, and I cried, and I cried, and I told them, "I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry." And they were like, Why are you sorry? What did you do?" And I said, "I let you down. I let you all down. I'm always telling you not to get arrested, and look at me, I got arrested." And they were like, and I was like, "I'm a felon, I'm a criminal." And they were like, "You're not a criminal, Tomas. You're a hero." And they prayed for me. They prayed for me, and they loved me. And I tell that story because it really shows how close we were at camp. And it showed that unity that you're talking about. And, even now, they say that Standing Rock is over. Standing Rock is not over. Standing Rock is right here. Standing Rock is everywhere now. We've started a movement, and we've started a fire that they can't put out. There is no silencing us. We will not be silent anymore, and we will continue to stand up. We will continue to stand up for the water. And what people don't understand about Indigenous life is that our life is centered around the water. Everything that we do, we put that water first. This is not just an environmental fight for us. This is a political fight. This is a spiritual fight. This is an environmental fight. This is a fight on every single level. Because when you take away that water, you take away our very being. You take away the very essence of who we are. What I'm going to end with is growing up as young people, we are often told that our generation wasn't good enough. You know, everyone constantly talks about this generation like we are shit. And we hear you. Every time you put us down, we hear it and we feel it. So to the older generation, what I'm going to ask you to do is to please stop telling us that we aren't good enough. Please stop telling us that we can't do it. And please start encouraging us. Listen to your children. Talk to them. Ask them about how their day was. For the first time in history, the youth took their voice. We took our place in this movement. We didn't ask for it. We demanded it. We deserve a voice. Your children deserve to be heard. A silent child is not a good child. An outspoken, empowered child is a good child. So to all my brothers and sisters out there, keep standing up. Keep standing up. Do not take no for an answer. And always, always remember who you are and where you came from. Back you. So thank you for having me.